on the 13th of July, our supervisor election came into the Charter Review Committee, and I have the minutes here. And in the minutes, here was a question that was asked to our supervisor election. Mr. Molyneux said, Mr. Molyneux asked if the election has to be one item or can it be multiple. Supervisor election, Mr. Lux, explained how the city of Fort Walton Beach used 7 different items, and by the way, they passed 6 out of 7 in election, and they were mostly successful. He stated that Crestview's election history has failed likely because it was all in one item and to be too cautious of voter fatigue. He then went on when Genevieve Di Natale, a news reporter, asked what the technical issue was. Mr. Lux responded that voter fatigue and the amount of information in the referendum item. So we had the individual who's responsible for conducting elections in all of Okaloosa County telling us that in the minutes that I have here that he's not really making a recommendation one way, that he's just saying that he believes that maybe that might have something to do with it failing the previous 2 or 3 times. And then he came in front of the city council on the on the 11th of December, and I went and reviewed the video so I didn't misquote him. And his quote on there was, a catch-all item is a bad idea. And so he led us down a path to both the Charter Review Committee and the City Council that we need to split this up, because exactly what my fellow councilmen have been saying. If you had these things tied together and you don't like one thing, you're going to vote no against the whole thing, and you just shot it down. And when you have separate ones, are you in favor of, you know? And I understand you have to talk about the charter. So why couldn't you say, shall the city of Crestview repeal the current charter and put into effect a new charter creating a council manager form of government with a council-appointed city manager, and then make the same statement for the city clerk, appointing the city clerk. And then if you have to make some other statement about the city council having to change the charter in accordance with the ordinance, that's fine. But I really think, and I'm not trying to program it for success or failure. I'm trying to program it for fairness. And I don't think it's fair to tie 2 or 3 different items together and watch it go down the tubes like we've watched it go down the last 2 or 3 times. I have a copy of the Fort Walton Beach ballot, and very simple. You know, they had, like I said, it's what did I tell you, 7 different items, just like that, 7 different statements, bam, 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 and 6 out of 7 passed. Pretty successful, which is what the supervisor election recommended to us. So I will tell you, I have a problem, a big problem with this. I also have a problem with what the mayor brought up, and that is our time. 8 months ago, when I said this is something we need to move along real quickly, oh, we got plenty of time, we got 8 months, and here we are now, right up against the wall. Because we're saying we're going to have a second reading on 11th June, and it's due the supervisor election on the 15th of June, 4 days. All we have to do is have a hiccup, and we've done exactly what happened in the last one that was thrown off the ballot. And I'll tell you what, I'm going to use every ounce of my body to make sure that doesn't happen. I believe we need to get this together in less than one ballot referendum and have it to the City Council on the 14th of May for the first reading of that ordinance, and have a special meeting in the end of May to have the second reading. So we're not caught up in sitting there 4 days before it's due to the supervisor election. If you haven't got the sense that I'm opposed to this, you can ask me any questions you may, but I am totally opposed to it.
Well, that, and in defense of myself, I was only brought in 6 weeks ago, and it's only now that I'm understanding the dynamics of the issue.
But you see the issue I was saying? If our city attorney had been involved, nobody knows the temperature of this city better than our own city attorney.
Well, you know, that may be true.
No, I believe it is, yes.
But, I mean, we could, I would be interested, by the way, in looking at that Fort Walton Beach ordinance, not just the ballot questions, but the entire ordinance.
Sure.
To see how they structured it. Because my guess is it's structured a lot differently, you know, in terms of the charter amendments themselves. than the way these charter amendments are structured. But
It may be, Mr. Shirley, we've got to figure out a way. You've heard it from every one of us. That this is unacceptable to have everything all tied together into one statement.
Okay.
It's not going to be a fair test.
Well, all I can say is I think there's a consensus in that regard.
Oh, I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I understand.
It is going to require some significant wordsmithing to make that happen, to make separate ballot questions happen. We can give it a shot and see if we can crank it out quickly enough, if that's what you want to do. Now, the other thing we could do is
Mr. Shirley, I don't want to be rude, but I don't want you to give it a shot. If you think you can't do it, then we'll find someone who can, because we want this on the 28th of August referendum. That's what we want.
then I can do it. I'll do it.